My guest today is Petru Soroaga, the developer behind Ruby FPV, a complete open source platform for controlling and managing UAVs, drones, planes, cars, and other remote controlled vehicles. He has spent years refining real-time video transmission, telemetry, and control, pushing the limits of what's possible in open source long-range FPV. In this conversation, we talk about his background in software development, the challenges of building a reliable FPV system, and the technical details behind Ruby FPV. We also discuss open source innovation, the future of FPV technology, and what's next for the project. Here is my conversation with Petru Soroaga. Yeah, again, thank you, Petru, for taking the time to have a chat with me. So maybe the first question, just to give the big background, because we're both pilots, you probably have some more experience. So tell us, what do you fly and how long have you been flying FPV?
Yeah, so basically I have been flying since I was a kid. At that time you had to build your planes using balsa and everything, so I have been flying for a long time, and at that time actually we didn't had remote controls and FPV and whatnot. We used combustion engines and sailplanes. So yeah, as I grew older, at some point I started to also fly helicopters, and now more recently in the last 10 years or so drones. So I have been flying for a long time.
Okay, and has the technology always been there in your kind of area of interest? Of how,
Yes. I mean, I graduated from a technical school. I'm a software engineer.
Okay.
A graduated software engineer. So I always like to build stuff and create things. So yeah, as a career, I went with software development and stuff like that. So
okay,
even today, I'm still building my drones sometimes.
I see.
I do not buy carbon frames and stuff like that. I still like balsa and wood.
Okay. Interesting approach, everything from scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that actually answers a bit my second question. So you said, you mentioned you're a software engineer, right? Apart from, of course, developing Ruby.
Well, I graduated as
okay.
a software engineer. Now I'm mostly working as software development lead and stuff like that. So I still like to build stuff, but my career evolved in the way that I really like to manage people and help them out as much as I can.
So maybe a little bit about Ruby itself. So why and when did you develop Ruby? What was the driving force behind it?
Well, I mean, when I think I started in 2020 with the COVID stuff, and so 5 years ago, a long time, maybe too much time spent on Ruby. Why? So yeah, at that time and before that I was flying analog FPV, and since, as I said, I'm building planes and like to fly since I was a kid. So actually the FPV stuff, like in 2005, it's the first time when I saw somebody do FPV with a head tracker. So I said I must do this at some point in the future. So moving forward, like in 2010 and 2015 and so on, I used to fly analog with head tracker, and I really enjoy the flying experience. I'm not a good pilot, I'm a bad pilot, but I just like to fly and enjoy the view. So yeah, in about 2020 we used to have off-the-shelf hardware that really could be used for writing a FPV system. So at that point we used to have with a DUI solutions. It was a Wi-Fi broadcast system. It was actually the first ones that used off-the-shelf hardware to just create a FPV stream, and then OpenHD. So in about 2020 I decided to write something the way I like it, and that's how Ruby started. I had a lot of ideas in my head about what I want Ruby to be, so that's why I said, okay, let's start something from scratch and do it the right way. Why? Yeah, because I like to fly, and
So it started as a personal project in a way.
Yeah,
for yourself.
absolutely. I mean, it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I said, I wanted to fly and create something at the end of the day. So, I mean, we should always try to create something and help people out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. So maybe a little bit more in depth about the Ruby itself. So could you tell us what's under the bonnet? What's the technology like? What are the protocols? What programming languages? What's the architecture like?
Sure. So in terms of languages, it's C, C++. I know people don't like it, or there are a lot of newer languages, but I used C, C++ for 20, 30 years, so I still think it's the best one, especially for systems like this where you really need performance and you cannot afford to use a language that takes resources from the actual work you need to do. So it's C, C++. How it works, basically, it's not just a transport for a video feed, but I actually try to design it so I can extend it later on and make it more than just an FPV system like DJI. So something more closely like, I don't know, C or other systems where you can actually have other functionalities, like, for example, creating missions or having autonomous flight or having multiple drones or planes at the same time and so on. So the idea was to be able at a future date to extend the capability. So it's, of course, I started only with a FPV stream because that's the main point and still is, having a good FPV feed. But besides that, there are a lot of other functionalities that I wanted and I did integrate it in Ruby, like relaying, like being able to control additional devices. So now you can, for example, have a separate link for controlling a gimbal or something else. So
yeah, I think people don't realize, how many things you can do with Ruby. People, I think, view it as a FPV solution, but they don't use everything.
Yeah, that's the main focus, FPV, for me or for many hobbyists. But another big aspect that I wanted to make it from the start, it's the ability to have multiple radio links. So, I mean, as I was flying analog, as I was reading everything about DJI, about other systems and so on, I really thought that having multiple radio links would help in the future and in many scenarios. So that's, besides the FPV feed, one other main root capability of Ruby, it's the ability to have multiple radio links. So either on 5.8 gigahertz, either 2.4, or even the lower bands. So
Yes, I still have to test. I've only been flying 5.8. I haven't tried any other frequencies yet. I know there's going to be better range probably with the lower frequencies.
Yes, I mean, up to a few years back, I used to fly on 2.4 gigahertz, and I really had a good range. But at some point I was getting annoyed with the antennas and everything. So basically, as you probably know, on 2.4, besides the usual linear antennas, you don't have very many more options in terms of what antennas to use. So at some point I started to migrate to 5.8 because I really like the small circular antennas. And the fact that also in terms of hardware, a lot of new hardware appears that was capable of 5.8 gigahertz band. So slowly I migrated to 5.8 and now I fly only on 5.8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that
There are some benefits. I mean, yeah, maybe also noise and stuff like that, but as I said, I used to fly only on 2.4 inside cities and I didn't had any issues. But yeah, 5.8 offers other advantages besides bandwidth. You have better hardware in, for 5.8 gigahertz band. So that's the main reason, mostly the hardware capabilities.
a lot of moving parts in a big system like this,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think. So a lot of things to consider. So maybe let's talk about a little bit about adaptive link. So how does it compare to what the competition does? So the DJI, Snail, OpenIPC,
I mean,
yeah, go on.
Of course, DJI and Snail, let's say that nobody knows how it works. I mean, you can make a lot of educated guesses, and that's what I'm trying to do, just to make educated guesses by studying videos of Snail and DJI and see what happens in real time. So I think I have a pretty good idea how they work, and basically I'm trying to mimic that because, I mean, over the years I thought a lot about how to have a better video feed, a more consistent one. So as you know, probably a lot of hobbyists will care about latency, but a lot of them will care about the video quality. So I'm more in the later category. I don't really care so much about latency as long as it's low enough. I really care about the video quality because, as I said, I enjoy just to fly and admire the view. So, and that's basically what Snail and DJIs are doing also with retransmissions and adaptive stuff. They are trying to keep a consistent video feed, even if the latency is not like 10 milliseconds or so. So, adaptive video in Ruby, yeah, basically I do have some basic explanations on my website. You can later check those. So in a nutshell, Ruby in real time tracks the quality of the radio link, of the actual physical radio link, like signal strength, like how many packets are getting through, if we lose any packets and so on. So in real time, based on a computed link quality, will adapt the video feed. So basically we will decrease bit rate, or we will change radio modulations to a more robust scheme that could penetrate farther, and also of course doing retransmissions. So I'm not sure if Snail is doing retransmissions. I assume it does, but DJI does it for sure. So, and over the years, I reached the empirical conclusion that retransmissions are the ones that help the most in terms of keeping a video feed consistent and without breakups. Yes, when you fly long range or be in a forest or something, yes, adaptive video helps a lot because you change radio modulations so you can penetrate better. But at the end of the day, during a regular flight, RF interferences, it's the most common issue because they are always present at every second anywhere you fly. So retransmissions are actually the ones that provide the biggest boost in the video quality, in the video consistency. So actually Ruby has a lot of statistics on screen, so I'm always using those to analyze how it goes.
Yeah, and I've been following Ruby for probably like 5 or 6 months, and I think with each release it's getting better and better, so
Yeah.
it's very visible.
I mean, for sure DJI and Waxnail, but mostly DJI, they do a lot of other tricks that I cannot really do them. So for example, I'm almost sure that DJI also uses a custom video encoder. So like if you know how their focus mode works, where the left and right side of the screen gets blurry, this is a tricky one to do, so you really need a custom encoder and decoder to do that. OpenIPC hardware does offer something similar, but I hadn't get a chance yet to play with that. So basically you can set a region of the screen where the encoder allocates more or less bit rate for that region. So
that's one of the problems I found. I've tested Roncam Wi-Fi link, and especially in the corners, I didn't like the quality at all. I was disappointed with it, but
that
yeah,
must probably is just an optical issue. It's related to lens.
could be. The
a
cameras
video
they
encoder,
provide are.
The video encoder H24, H20, 264, 265, they don't really prioritize any region of the screen. So
Okay, so it's
in
more
terms
uniform.
of encoder, in terms of encoder, you get the same quality everywhere. As I said, with the exception that now on the OpenIPC hardware, you do have some options to change the quality on a region of a screen, but I haven't tested yet.
So
DJI does it anyway.
So it's about the lens, really.
Yeah.
That you use.
All this bit rate adjustment, yes, it helps, especially when you do long flight or behind trees and stuff like that. But mostly the retransmissions are the ones that really give you the biggest boost. So
I see. So you touched on the OpenIPC hardware. I'd like to talk about your partnership with OpenIPC. How does it look like, and how does it work? You can use OpenIPC hardware on Ruby, and that's fully supported. Is there, any other partnership kind of there?
How it works? It's pretty basic and simple. We have a gentleman agreement. I mean, Ruby it's open source, OpenIPC it's open source. So I just talked with that team, and they agreed to allow me to build Ruby inside OpenIPC firmware. So I mean, it's just an agreement because at the end of the day, we are quite independent. I mean, OpenIPC is just the platform itself. It's the firmware that runs on the IP cameras, and Ruby it's running on top of that. So you can look at OpenIPC like a single board computer, like Raspberry, like Radza and other single board computers. So at the end of the day, OpenIPC is just a single board computer with that custom Linux kernel. Yes, what it has, the advantage and why it's used for FPV is that it, unlike other single board computers, it does have native capabilities for a video camera, for a camera sensor. So they do have an ISP module inside the CPU, and they do have a hardware video encoder. So basically, yes, it's a single board computer with Linux, but they have some really good support for accessing the video stream and using the video stream.
So it
And
sounds like
yes,
a
Ruby just
yeah.
comes on top of that. I'm not really customizing the Linux kernel or something like this. Like Ruby works on, like it works on other hardware, on Raspberry or Radxa. You just have a single board computer with a Linux distribution, and on top of that, you just run Ruby. Of course, I tried to clean up the Linux distributions to not include all the garbage you don't need. So.
Sorry, I probably won't go that deep into the technology because I don't know it, basically. But you touched on the topic that, you know, OpenIPC is open source, of course, and Ruby is open source. So what's your approach to kind of working together with other developers? Would you be open to, you know, suggestions in terms of Ruby, improving Ruby? Are you open to, you know, just working, collaborating with other people?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, I always keep in touch with people who use Ruby, and I always integrate the feedback because, I mean, one of the main reasons I'm doing Ruby, as I said, it's for myself because I really want to fly and I really like to build stuff. But the second one is that I do really think that as long as we are here, we should give something back. I mean, we don't live forever, so we should try to bring something to others.
Yeah, it's a
To bring
very,
some
very
joy,
good thing. Yeah.
some free joy to others.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm always keeping in touch with the community and integrate the feedback they gave me as much as I can. And you will get a lot of ideas and so on, but I do need to prioritize them because I cannot really do anything. And in terms of collaboration, yes, I mean, the door is always open. There were few people who did some new features that I actually integrated into the main code and so on. So, yeah, I mean, the door was always open. But again, since I'm doing all this stuff, most users, whether they are engineers or not, they just prefer to tell me what they need. I mean,
People are lazy sometimes.
It's hard to ask somebody to do something on this system. I'm not saying it's complicated, but it's neither a simple one. I mean, you cannot just use ChatGPT to do something.
Yeah, there is a barrier of entry,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah. But yeah, the door is open. There were few developers who added some small new features. I mean, yeah.
Okay. So maybe what's your biggest challenge at the moment in terms of development?
Time.
Time.
There are still few features that I want to make them more robust, and new features that I really want to add them. Again, especially because it's a personal goal, I want to use them, but also some other people might enjoy those features, like having autonomous missions directly from Ruby without any other mission control software. I want to improve the relay functionality and play more with it. And another big one is to be able to fly multiple drones at the same time from the same controller, because my goal is to just have a controller with one or two relays and a plane, and just to be able to control all of them and just fly around wherever I want without having to care about breakups or range or penetration and so on. So
that would be some sights to see, you know, a swarm of Ruby drones or
yeah,
planes.
the main challenge is just time.
I see.
The second one, I mean, it's not a challenge, but I'm always looking for better hardware.
Okay.
So if you look around, there are few new single board computers, boards that are coming out that looks to be specially designed for FPV, for drones. You can also see some new additional radio chips that come out, and I'm talking here about consumer, something that you or I can go and buy from internet. I'm talking about specialized hardware because that was never the point and I could never get it anyway. So I'm always looking for new hardware, but again, it's too much work right now to have time to add support for a new board or a new hardware. And as long as the current supported hardware it's quite large now with Runcam and Emacs and all the others that are coming on board, I think on the hardware side there is the ecosystem, it's large enough to support a lot of use cases. But yeah, I will always look out for better hardware because at the end of the day a better hardware will allow you to do more complex software scenarios.
Okay. So another one question: what's up with all the capacitors? You're known in the community as the capacitor man, apparently.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I always like to build stuff since I was a kid, and besides software and computers, I like to build a lot of electronic stuff. So I learned a lot about in school and in my hobbies about electronics, physics, and so on. So capacitors, yeah, since we are using off-the-shelf hardware, it's not like it's not like we can design hardware, but we can talk about this subject. It's changing in the last few years. So since I'm using off-the-shelf components, a lot of times electrical interferences are quite big, depending on what hardware you have, what voltage regulator you use, and so on. So as with any DUI hardware solution where you cannot really control the quality, and based on a lot of tests I did over the years, I reached the conclusion that the filtering of all the power lines in such a DUI solution do have a big effect on the quality of the radio link. So at the end of the day, whenever you are talking about radio link, especially in the gigahertz band and above, so where the frequency is very high and the wavelength is very short, yes, electrical noise from any device does start to matter and have an impact, because electrical noise at the end of the day will manifest as RF noise in the antenna, so you'll get less sensitivity at the end of the day. So adding capacitors everywhere where you have a power line, as I said, especially in this situation where it's DUI and everybody has different skills in soldering, in wiring components and how they route wires and so on, you will have a lot of variability, and to avoid a lot of back and forth with people, I just suggested that everyone should add capacitors because they do help, and I also avoid a lot of wasted time to investigate why they have a poor link or stuff like that. So
yeah, it definitely cancels out, some of those issues that could arise. I have to admit you that I have 2 Wi-Fi cards on my ground station, and only one has one capacitor, and it's not the one you recommended. So
well, my second recommendation that on the RC groups forum I do it a lot it's there is a complement to capacitor. It's shielding. So yes, but it's more complicated for people. I mean, complicated. It's not complicated, but
that's, I think, easy enough.
So
Aluminium foil.
It's really important to add shielding to all the components, because again, if you shield a component, it will not generate RF noise that reaches the antenna. So the
this
capacitors
one.
and
This one I've done because it's I think it's pretty easy. So I've done insulation tape, then aluminium foil, then insulation tape again. That's it.
That's right.
Over like the main kind of electrical things inside.
So the point is, in the last few years, as everybody knows, there are a lot of services that provide PCB design and PCB constructions and even entire boards, and now there are a lot of software tools that pretty much a person that it's really dedicated can create a board, an actual physical hardware device from scratch, like Kenny did on OpenIPC. So
and on this topic, I'm a little bit involved with what Kenny is doing. Kenny, just to give background, is OpenIPC developer. He does hardware, and soon there will be a device that basically will act as a universal ground station. So there will be Wi-Fi cards, there will be BEC on board, a couple other things like capacitors. So it'll be hopefully all integrated, and we won't have to worry about it. It'll be probably very good for the community, because at the moment there is no universal
overall long term, yes, it's a very good win for the community at large, and not necessarily only for FPV everywhere. So the fact that Kenny has the tools today to actually design and actually produce a board, it's fantastic. I mean, I couldn't believe it's possible today to do something like this. So for sure it's a benefit for the FPV community. The only drawback, because there is one and you could see it if you look around, as with any DIY hardware design, you do have to have few iterations until you reach a good hardware design. So
of course,
I mean, people might, because with software, open source software, the entire idea, it's easy. It's open source, everybody can use it. There is no actual cost in real money. There are costs, okay, if something goes wrong or wasted time. With hardware, it's a little bit trickier, because okay, you design the hardware device and so on, but it's not free like software, so people actually have to buy it, and if they buy it and they have issues, then you have a problem. So that's why hardware design is a little bit trickier. It's a benefit that we can do this today, but it's trickier because you actually need to design something good, and it's not like software, let me fix this bug. I mean, as soon as you produce something, you have to sell it, otherwise you lose money. So
yes, of course.
But I think Kenny already did an amazing job. I mean, the new Sinker board air unit, it's like the third or fourth official one. So I do think Sinker board, it's very well designed. So probably will get better in the future.
They didn't build Rome in a day. You know, we have to start somewhere, and we'll get there. I think. I think in 1 year's time, there will be definitely this device will be ready and available.
Look at this way. DJI started like 10 years, 15 years ago with the first drones and so on. And they, at that time, I think they had poorer technologies than we have today in the open source community. So it takes time. If you look at Waxnail, they started more or less with something, let's say, off the shelf. Not really, but anyway. So they still evolved over time in few years. And what OpenIPC with the new hardware did, I think it's more than I ever expected to happen. So the fact that now in 1 year we actually have air units that you can buy and just go fly, I think it's amazing. From just a team of small people, few dedicated people. So I think the future looks good for OpenIPC in general. I mean,
Yeah, I definitely agree. You know, it's exciting watching a small project like this suddenly get bigger and better, you know, very fast.
yeah, as long as the people involved still remain dedicated to the goals.
That's true.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's only 1 year. Let's see what's in after 2 or 3 years. So
hmm Good thing that we have options. So, you know, the
yeah.
OpenIPC does hardware and, of course, the software as well is in development, and Ruby is another option, but just for software. So there is a symbiotic relationship,
Yeah.
I think,
And
which
also,
is good.
if you look now, of course, Rancam and Emacs and others
hmm
are doing their own OpenIPC hardware. So I
Yeah,
think
so looks
on
good,
the
I
hardware
think.
side,
hmm
yeah, things are looking very good.
That's true. Okay, so about people joining you, we've asked that already. Okay, that's a good one. What are the 3 big new features that are coming in for Ruby?
Uh, Actually, I'm working right now on audio.
Okay.
So in few days, I will have the audio shipped. And I think this one, it's a big one. If I would like to fly with sound sometimes, but a lot of people asked for audio. So, and it's like a personal achievement. I mean, if I'll ship it and it works right out of the box, just plug and play, I think it's maybe the first digital system that has out of the box has audio. So that's another reason why I started Ruby, because okay, there was DJI at that time, but of course DJI does not offer everything you want. So I said, fuck it, let me build a system with everything I want. So one, it's audio because it was asked by a lot of people, and I do think it will be a benefit for a lot of people. Then I do plan to add dual camera support, so it's also something that people asked and I would like to try. So basically to have 2 cameras at the same time on an air unit. And the third one is to be able to add just regular IP cameras. So I happen to have some of the CE cameras because I like this system. So I bought few camera from them to use in Ruby, but since they are just regular IP cameras, I do need to add support for IP cameras. So that's another not so major, but it will open the door to more customizations and new hardware. So basically you can use a regular IP camera that maybe has a gimbal, maybe has zoom or other capabilities, not just OpenIPC cameras.
Yeah, there are a few brands that make really good cameras that are really cheap, like $30. It's Wise Cam, I think. They have a not a gimbal but a roll and pan and a zoom, I think, as well. So that would be interesting to see, definitely. And for me personally, the 2 cameras is really interesting because you can have one FPV and the second one on zoom and gimbal. That would be really cool. Have a plane flying with 2. Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
And there are a lot of new things I want to add, but as I said, I need to take it one at a time. I mean,
that's true.
I can work on only so much at a time. So
yeah,
but the most exciting ones coming in the near future, it's audio first, then dual camera, then IP cameras, then something related to missions and automatic control. I mean, I always have a plan and a to-do list with priorities, but the priorities do change a lot. So what I know absolutely sure it's yes, the next update will have audio. After that, I don't know if something else moves up, maybe I will delay dual camera and do something else, but we will see.
Yeah, you know my requests, so I won't repeat them.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so another question. Would you be open to cooperate with commercial brands if they wanted, to put, for example, Ruby on their hardware or something like this?
Yeah, but I mean, that's something that a lot of people get wrong. Since I open source the Ruby code, uh, they don't need my agreement. Basically, anyone can take it and use it in. So the license, it's just a standard license, open source license, where they can use it commercially, they can use it privately, and everything else, as long as they maintain the credits. That's all. So
Okay, so
no
they don't need to
one
ask you,
actually
really.
needs my agreement to use Ruby
Mhm.
for their private needs, for commercial stuff and so on. So yes, there are a
Okay.
few companies that contacted me. They wanted customizations. I mean, yes, using Ruby as is, it's not a big deal, and no one needs my blessing to use it as is. If they want additional features, yes, I mean, as we talked before, not many people would want to dig into the code and understand how it works. So if we are talking about custom features and so on, yes, usually they contact me to figure out if I can do what they want. So
Okay. So, do you envision Ruby with, for example, OpenIPC hardware replacing in future analog and competing, for example, with Voxnail? Because I think it's getting close to that.
analog, I mean, as I said, there are, as far as I can see, or what's easy to me to address the issues and questions is it's basically, from my point of view, analog is still used by racers and people who really need low latency, or who just have an emotional attachment to analog, because that's what we used to fly. Everybody who used to fly analog, all of us who used to fly analog. And yeah, so the main reasons analog is still used, it's because of the latency and because of some emotional attachment. So to answer the question about competing, I don't think it's a competition. I mean, Ruby will never, I mean, I'm not saying never, but it's not really my main daily focus to have, I don't know, 5 seconds latency, 5 milliseconds latency in Ruby. So probably it will never have 5 milliseconds latency and so on. So, and
Okay.
even if it would be good, like let's say you have HD0 or DJI, the analog guys will still fly analog if they like it. So it's not about a competition. I mean, moreover, since everything is free, I mean,
Yeah, it's more of a choice,
yeah,
what you
yeah,
want, really.
yeah. I think analog is dying. I mean, my opinion is that it's still used either by racers, but there also you can see lately that DJI and HD0 started to be present at racing events. But anyway, it will still be used for a while by racers, but I don't think that community is important, because most of the people just want to fly FPV. So it's like all of us like to ride a nice car, but not all of us want to go to Formula One or be Michael Schumacher.
That's true.
So in the other category that still flies analog for nostalgia or because they like it, that one involuntarily over time it will go away. It's how life works. So yeah, I think analog is dying, but that's not an issue or a problem, or it's how the world works.
That's true. Some technologies just die
Yeah.
after a while.
Hmm.
It's inevitable. But Another question, how can average FPV pilot help Ruby? Let's say, I know about Ruby and it looks good, it's interesting. How can pilots like me help you as Ruby as an organization, let's say?
It's simple. I mean, if somebody enjoys Ruby, the only thing I need is feedback. I mean, because if somebody is having an issue, feedback is the best thing to do, because maybe somebody else have it and they don't say anything. So by helping me figure out issues, they help other people too who use Ruby. So that's the only help I need in testing, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the issue with DUI systems. It's the hardware ecosystem. It's very, you can have a lot of combinations and you cannot cover everything. So for example, right now on my bench I have like 5 air units and 3 controllers, but I'm still covering only a few combinations. I need to change radio cards, I need to change camera and so on. So I cannot cover what all the users are doing, all the hardware combinations they are doing. So I think Ruby is at a point where basically right now works on any combination you do. So we are past that issue where the very large ecosystem and the combinations you can do, it's an issue. It works on everything, like Android works on any device that you find anywhere. But yeah, it would be nice to be like DJI or Apple, where you control the hardware platform and you know that all the people have the same hardware platform. And that's another reason why I'm amazed with OpenIPC hardware, because this, and so it's twofold. One, that it's actually capable, the hardware, the OpenIPC hardware, it's capable and usable for FPV. And the second point is that yes, if many people migrate to OpenIPC hardware, it solves the issue with the ecosystem. So having a more controllable hardware ecosystem, it allows you to write better software, because you know what the potential issues could be.
Yeah, you have to limit the amount of variables, in a system. Then it's much easier to work on it.
So yeah, the only feedback I need, it's the only thing that could help Ruby, it's feedback. Or $1 million if somebody has it.
Of course. You could start a crowdfund,
Nah, it's not worth it.
No? Okay.
I mean, you cannot live on Patreon or crowdfund or YouTube or whatnot. Let's not kid ourselves.
Think about it,
It's the issue in this century. Everybody wants to be a YouTuber or influencer or whatnot. But
I think of it just as a way of saying thank you, to buy somebody a cup of coffee.
Yeah, but a thank you, it's enough. I mean, a thank you or $5 doesn't change anything. So just a thank you, it's enough.
Okay. Would you like to say any ending thoughts to FPV pilots that will listen to this?
Just to enjoy flying. I'm getting a little bit tired of the whole latency and what's better, what's worse. I mean, it will not go away. It always will be like it was with Windows and Linux, like with Android and iPhone. Now it's with FPV, DJI or HD0 or OpenIPC and so on. So people should just enjoy flying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, they do get free systems, more or less free systems, DUI systems. What's the point in bitching about it? If you enjoy it, just use it and
that's true.
Live your life.
I definitely agree with you on not focusing on latency. Personally, I fly planes as well. For me, as long as it's not like 5 seconds, I'm okay. Less than 1 second, it's great.
Yeah, but that's the point.
That's all I need.
I'm annoyed with this latency stuff. As I said, it will not go away because that's how people are. But now with OpenIPC hardware, really latency, it's not an issue anymore. So on OpenIPC hardware, you can now get a latency as low as, I don't know, 30 milliseconds, let's say, with a high refresh screen and everything. So in best conditions, with the best hardware, you can get 30 milliseconds latency. I'm telling you, even some other YouTubers did the tests, more scientific tests. Even DJI has, in many cases, in many combinations, has higher latencies than 30 milliseconds. And 30 milliseconds, it's a non-issue for 99% of flyers. I mean, yeah, the racers and the ones that needs 5 milliseconds are the most vocal on internet, but I don't think they represent the norm. So I would say for a vast majority of FPV hobbyists, 30 milliseconds, 40 milliseconds, it's really a non-issue. So they should just enjoy flying.
I agree. And on this note, I'd like to thank you for your time and really enjoy this. I probably learned a good bit as well about you and about Ruby and so on. I still have loads to learn personally, but yeah, thanks for sharing your thoughts, and hopefully more people will fly with Ruby.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, let's hope so. I mean, let's enjoy the hobby.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.